Welcome to episode 53 of our series on the surnames of Appalachia and the American South. On today's show, we'll investigate the origins and meanings of 7 Appalachian and Southern family names, pretty much like we always do. Our search will take us to Wales, Scotland, Ireland, England, France, Scandinavia, and Germany. I hope you'll join me. Let's get started. Number 1, Helton. When I read this request, my mind went straight back to the 1980s and Rock Lodge, a hall on the campus of Tennessee Technological University. I was fortunate to have studied under a geologist named Dr. Pete Helton at Tennessee Tech. He was the second geosciences professor that I had taken named Pete. The first was Dr. Frank L. Pete Charton at Roane State. At any rate, the surname Helton shared a lot of original meaning with Lytton. You may remember that name from a week or two ago. They are both English toponymics for a dweller at a slope, but Helton doesn't include a farmstead. Lytton does. Whereas Lytton originated mostly in the southwest of England, Helton seems to have originated in Cumbria, which is in the northwest of England. In looking among the other traditional names in Scotland, Ireland, or Wales, I'm pretty sure that Helton is an English surname. Number 2, Turpin. When I was a teenager in Oliver Springs, Tennessee, my hometown, I started to notice things like girls and naming patterns. Turpin stood out to me as a common local name. Harrison labels Turpin an Anglo-Saxon or Anglo-French Scandinavian surname for Thor Hill. That's right, Thor as in the Nordic god, made famous by the Hemsworth guy from Australia. This tells me that the surname was first associated with the 9th century Vikings who moved to Neustria, which was renamed Normandy, France, under Rollo. Soldiers named Turpin later traveled to England with William the Conqueror in 1066 and were likely on the field of Hastings when William defeated Harold Godwinson. You might find this interesting. Harold died from an arrow that went through an eye socket and perforated his brain. As I've mentioned a few times in our series already, on surnames that is, a good many Norman nobles accepted invitations from Scottish King David I, who either reigned or lived from 1084 to 1151. It's probably his lifetime. David wanted him to come into the country and develop the agricultural economy of the Scottish lowlands. As a surnames, it seems to have stayed in England and Scotland, though, until the 17th and 18th centuries when waves of immigrants crossed the cold waters of the North Atlantic to settle in America, especially Appalachia in the South. At the end of the day, I think you'll need a paper trail to find the origin of your line of Turpin. Number 3, Massey. Despite being a surname in my own family tree, this name conjured up images of Massey Ferguson tractor, a Massey Ferguson tractor that a friend of mine in County Down, Northern Ireland had rebuilt. He started working on it in Scotland when I knew him back in probably 25 years ago. My friend thought that the names Massey Ferguson were quintessentially Scottish names. Well, I did some digging, and while they are both found among the traditional surnames of Scotland, there could be a French origin as well. In the ancient French land of Neustria, which became known as Normandy after the Northmen who had settled there in the 9th century, we already mentioned them a little earlier under Rollo, villages named Massey popped up as French toponymics. As with Turpin, Massey came to the Isles with the Normans. Today seems to be a Norman day. Massey's not just found in England and Scotland, it's also found in Ireland, where it's one of Limerick's leading Anglo-Irish families. Been around since at least the 1700s. It doesn't appear among the traditional surnames of Wales, so I'm confident that Massey, not Mason, we did Mason a couple weeks ago, is an Anglo-Norman, Anglo-Scottish, or Anglo-Irish surname, depending on where your line leads. Number 4, McKibben. The roots of the Scottish surname are German and French for pledge, hostage, noble, youth. Wow, that's a long one. McKibben means the son of Gibbon. Early forms of the name in Scotland were used interchangeably with Gilbert. No doubt there are a few McKibben folk living in England, but the majority of McKibben families in Australia and the South hail from Ireland or Scotland. Before someone writes and claims that I'm biased towards Ireland and Scotland, the fact that the families kept the MAC or MC prefix tells me that the earliest immigrants were keen to keep the Celtic connection to their family and name alive. Besides that, the largest white ethnic groups in many parts of the South are of Scottish and Irish origin, especially in Kentucky and West Virginia. The Carolinas, East Tennessee, Virginia, and Georgia have significantly high populations of Scottish and Scots-Irish people. Number 5, younger, and younger. Unless you're new to watching old westerns or studying the times at which they're depicted in those films, you will have no doubt heard of the James Younger Gang that operated between 1868 and 1876. They robbed banks and trains from western Kentucky to Kansas and as far north as Northfield, Minnesota. The James boys included Frank and Jesse, while the Youngers included Cole, Jim, John, and Bob. The gang was dissolved after the disastrous attempt to rob the First National Bank of Northfield up in Minnesota on September 7, 1876. The story of the James Youngers has been told many times in movies and on TV. I highly recommend Brad Pitt's 2007 movie, The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. It's probably one of the most accurate films on Jesse James's life that you might come across. But I might do a short segment on the Cole Younger and James gang. Let me know in the comments section what you think about that idea. Anyway, Cole's paternal line of Youngers were of English descent. The English name was given to a man who was someone's junior. However, Younger also could be an anglicized version of the German name Younger with a J, which means the youngest. To make matters a bit more complicated, George Fraser Black says that Youngers in eastern Scotland likely came from the Flemish families of Jonker with a J, but, well, I'll show you the spelling. It meant the younger of two. Younger doesn't appear among the traditional surnames of Wales or Ireland, so a paper trail would be most helpful in locating the origin of your line of Younger. Number 6, Hearst. Just a few weeks ago, we laid to rest Janice Hearst, my aunt-in-law, so receiving this request was timely and well received. Her loss is strongly felt by her siblings, children, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews, as well as friends. Janice's Old English surname was given to someone generations ago who lived on a wooded hillside. It was sometimes spelled H-Y-R-S-T. In looking into other countries of the Isles, I found that Hearst is only well represented in Ireland, where it may have come straight from England, or it was adopted to anglicize another name. No doubt a paper trail will help clarify the origin of your line of Hearst. Number 7, Henderson. Henderson has a history that predates Anglo-Saxon England. It's a Teutonic surname for the son of Henry. Nevertheless, it entered the Isles with the early Germanic and later Norman invaders. In Scotland, the surname is rather prominent and can be found from Fifeshire in the east to Dumfriesshire in the southwest, but somehow it's not found listed among the historic border clans. Doesn't make a lot of sense there. In Scotland, it's often used as an alternate form of Henryson. While it's not directly a Teutonic surname in the Bonny Land, as it is in England, it nonetheless has the same meaning. It's also found in Ireland, but it's mostly found in Ulster. As I've stated a few times in earlier episodes, a Y chromosome of R1b U106 entered the Isles with the Angles, Saxons, Jutes, Frisians, and Normans. If your Y haplogroup is L21, it's likely from the Isles, Celtic if you will, especially Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. Remember, paper trails can lie due to some hanky-panky in the old family tree, but DNA doesn't lie. Well folks, that's all I have for you today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If demand warrants it, I'll be back soon with episode 54 of our series on the surnames of Appalachia and the American South. Until then, may the good Lord smile on you and yours. Bye-bye.